2020. Bihar, India. A man couldn't repay a loan. So the loan officer married his wife. Her name was Indra Kumari, trapped in an abusive marriage. One missed payment later. She became the wife of the man sent to collect. Some called it love. But online, it looked a lot darker. A man in debt, a woman handed over, no arrests, no outcry. Because legally, nothing was broken. But something ancient had just come back to life. Because this isn't new. Across centuries and continents, from South Asia to West Africa, when men owed too much, women paid the price, not with money, but with themselves. True love, or just the world's most poetic form of debt collection? We may never know. But the timing, let's just say, it raised more questions than vows. Historical context. A debt older than memory. This didn't begin in Bihar. It didn't begin in a courtroom or a village. It began before borders, before banks, before love meant choice, before contracts were signed. Deals were made with daughters. Before currency had names, debt was repaid with lives. In ancient halls and silent huts, from kings to peasants, when men owed more than they could pay, they gave what was closest, what was quietest, what was never asked. The wife, the daughter, the girl. She wasn't the debtor, but she paid the price. So when the Bihar case made headlines, it wasn't just the act that stunned us, it was the echo, a reminder of how old this arrangement really is. Because history has a pattern, and women have always been caught in it. Which brings us to the archives. Bought and sold, the dark history of debt marriage. In 19th century Thailand, gambling debts had a brutal price. Men could legally sell their wives, yes, wives, as payment. A lawful transaction where a human life was traded like cattle to settle a debt. Across the Straits of Malacca, colonial-era Chinese laborers faced a similar nightmare. Unable to repay debts, they pawned their wives, as if their spouses were livestock or gold bars, pledged to creditors like unpaid property. And sometimes it wasn't just wives. Daughters were also offered, a brutal reality documented by Amnesty International's 2016 report on bonded labor in South Asia. Families crushed by crushing debts handed over daughters to creditors in secret transactions, unrecorded, unregulated, and unheard. As Meenakshi Ganguly, South Asia director at Human Rights Watch, put it, debt bondage here strips more than freedom. It strips families of their daughters and dignity. Debt became a merciless creditor, a daughter for a loan. This isn't legend or myth, it's documented fact. A world where money's weight crushes lives, and women and girls are the grim collateral. And this pattern echoes far beyond Asia. Among the Igbo people of Nigeria, traditional customs sometimes required families to offer wives or daughters to settle debts, a practice described by Chinua Achebe in Things Fall Apart as part of a complex social and economic system long before modern times. Achebe wrote how marriage and kinship were often intertwined with obligation and repayment, showing how deeply debt and family ties could blur, but always within a strict cultural framework. This was a historical practice, not a present-day norm, and reflects the complex realities of past societies, not contemporary life. Debt that cost daughters. Africa. In South Sudan, among the Dinka and Nuer, debt wasn't just numbers. It was cattle, grain, land. When a man defaulted, his daughter could be handed over, sold into marriage. No questions asked, no consent required. She became a wife to a stranger, older, richer, collateral with a heartbeat. Anthropologist E. Evans Pritchard wrote in The Nuer, marriage payments were part of a larger system of exchange where women were central to cementing social debts. Scholar Douglas H. Johnson added, these marriages were often strategic, linking families through debt and obligation rather than affection. The daughter wasn't a victim in the eyes of tradition. She was currency, collateral with flesh and blood. This custom has largely faded, disrupted by decades of conflict, modernization, and international human rights pressure. But its legacy remains a haunting example of how debt's shadow can reach into the most personal parts of life. Blood debts and child brides. South Asia. Debt's grip doesn't loosen across continents. From the plains of Africa to the jagged mountains of South Asia, it drags bodies into its brutal calculus. In Pakistan and Afghanistan, there's a name for this cruelty: swara, or vani. When blood is spilled, a man killed, a family dishonored. The price? A girl's life. Not a woman chosen for love or chance, but a child, sometimes barely 8 years old, forced into marriage to erase a murder, to buy silence. The Harvard Human Rights Journal documented dozens of cases where girls were handed over as compensation, stripped of choice or voice. Amnesty International calls swara a gross violation of human rights, condemning it as a form of gender-based violence embedded in tradition. The law bans it, but law is paper. In remote valleys, ancient customs roar louder than justice. Here, debt is paid in flesh, and innocence is the currency. Debt slavery and owned wives. When women became collateral. In colonial Malaya, British records reveal a brutal truth. Chinese laborers drowning in debt often pawned their wives like cattle or gold, temporary collateral to buy time, money, and survival. These women's freedoms were gambled away, traded silently in a world where human lives were reduced to currency. Across 19th century Southeast Asia, customs dictated the fate of women bound by debt. In Thailand, gambling debts didn't just cost men their fortunes, they could cost entire families their women. Though never formally enshrined in law, ethnographic reports and oral histories reveal wives being transferred to settle scores, a practice hidden in custom, but no less devastating. These were not crimes whispered in the dark. They were customs lived in daylight, practices documented by British colonial officials and scholars alike. The Journal of the Royal Asiatic Society noted in the late 1800s how women were offered and pledged to satisfy debts, a grim testament to the value of human flesh in economic transactions. Wife, daughter, sister, titles shift, roles change. But one truth remains: you owe, she pays. Who really owes who? The BIHAR'S story shocked people because it felt ancient, wrong, too personal, too transactional, as if history had slipped through the cracks and walked right into the present. But this isn't some relic buried in time. It's not the past, it's a mirror, and it's still cracking. Some debts are never repaid, because the ones forced to pay them never owed anything in the first place. The daughter sold, the wife transferred, the girl promised. They weren't borrowers, they were payment. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is clear. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. But words on parchment don't shield the powerless, until we decide they do. If this disturbed you, it should, because none of this was fiction. If this story left you saying, "Wait, that really happened?" then you need more. Hit that subscribe button and smash the bell so you never miss our next dive into history's weirdest, wildest, and most jaw-dropping moments. Or you've got a crazy historical story you think we should cover? Drop it in the comments below. We love hearing from fellow history addicts who appreciate the absolutely unhinged side of the past. Thanks for exploring the crazy side of history with us. Catch you on the next adventure. Protect the girl, challenge the tradition, break the cycle,